Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I am Jennifer Ramirez, and I am the founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization And Rise. And Rise empowers women to be the best version of themselves, no matter what adversities they faced. And we offer personal and professional development workshops to women. We also do weekly support groups for female trauma survivors. So a lot of the women that come to our group are sexual, domestic, and emotional abuse survivors. And we also offer free counseling for women in Illinois right now. So if you or someone you know is in need, but maybe can't afford it, or you're underinsured or don't have insurance at all, we offer free counseling. So definitely check us out. Go to our website to learn more how to do that. And our vision is to put millions of trauma survivors through therapy or counseling so that they can be that ultimate version of themselves, as well as having an array, one day having an array of different support groups to help women heal from their trauma. To learn more about And Rise and how we empower trauma survivors, please visit our website at www.womenrisechicago.org. And we also believe that education and authentic storytelling is really important. And we also believe in prevention education. So educating people around different topics that we might not know about. Maybe we hear certain words on social media or other places in passing, but we don't really know what it entails. So today I have a very special guest. She's an organizational capacity building coach, Gayle Nelson, and Gayle is going to be talking to us about sex trafficking and how she's helped women who have been trafficked. And this is a topic that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But again, I'm all about talking about uncomfortable topics because these sex trafficking is actually a really big problem in our country, and we don't talk about it nearly as much as we should. This could be our children, our daughters. This can be our mothers, our sisters, our aunts. It could happen to honestly anyone, but especially younger women. So I'd like to introduce you to Gayle Nelson. Gayle, welcome.
Hi, Jennifer. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. And I just want to echo what you just talked about, because when we don't talk about things, then people hear shame and people hear blame.
Yes.
And we as women want to be strong. And the only way we're strong is we support each other and we talk about those subjects that we find hard to talk about. But these subjects can be triggering. And so, of course, get a glass of water and come back, or stop the presentation and watch it again. But please just continue to think about what we're talking about today. And I'm just so glad to be here, and thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we're going to do some share screen and get started. But it's great to be here. So what we're talking about today is about sex trafficking and why we care. And what is it really going on? Because some of us, it's easy to believe that it's happening in some other country, or it's happening with people that don't look like us. And so part of the conversation today is to debunk some of these myths and to talk about it and to work towards preventing it from occurring. So that's our goal today. Okay. Why aren't we moving? There we go. So again, Jennifer did a quick introduction about me. I've worked with nonprofit organizations for 20 years. Most of that time it's been working with organizations that support women. And many of the times what I've learned in these areas is how often women are abused, and what happens when they are. And the worst part about it is they don't realize that they are being abused. They don't realize they're being trafficked. And so, when I've worked with women in these situations, it's starting this conversation. And that's why I'm so grateful to Jennifer to inviting me to be part of this. And there's my website at the bottom there, GayleNelsonESQ.com. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you. And I wanted to start off by just doing a quick story, because as Jennifer said, it is about storytelling. And by talking about this as a story, we begin to see what this looks like in the real world. Because what we learn about is so often women that are in unhealthy or difficult situations don't see themselves as being in unhealthy or difficult situations. They see them as being normal. And it's never normal for people to hurt one another. for people to take advantage of you. And it just because it's happening doesn't mean that you can't gain the power to stop it. So let's learn about Jasmine. She and I'm not going to read it. I'm going to leave it up for a few minutes for you to read it. But the short summary was, she was a college athlete, and then she got hurt in a big tournament, right? And so often, so many of us in college, it's very expensive to be in college, and the tuition and all of that stuff. So when she was in the process of rehabilitation from this injury, she wasn't able to work during the summer, right? So all that money that she was depending on to make during the summer, she didn't make. And so she came back to school in debt. And the school got on her case because she was a few $1,000s behind on her tuition, and she didn't know what to do. And she felt that shame that we talked about of saying that she was in debt because she felt like she had failed, when really she didn't. She just got hurt. But and then she met this guy named Danny, right? And he, was so easy to talk to, and he was so supportive. So she told him what was happening, and he immediately, gave her good suggestions and told her to move in with him, right? And so and she did. And then suddenly, once they're moving in, he's looking for her contribution to all the bills. And she thought that when she was moving in, he was going to help her out, right? Mm-hmm. And suddenly she got into a situation she wasn't expecting. And so so what's happening now is he's taking advantage of her, right? He's taking advantage of her situation, but making it feel like it's her fault. And so he thought that he suggests that she dance at a local club. And suddenly she made all this money, and she thought, God, that wasn't so bad. But then it turned into something else. And Danny wasn't what she thought it was. And suddenly he's hurting her, right? And so, the conversation here is talking about how Danny slowly moves in. Jennifer, maybe you could talk a little bit about this too, what you've kind of seen throughout these types of situations.
Yeah, so it's not love bombing because he wasn't telling her he loved her or anything, but it's definitely this is something I teach my clients about, is being very careful who you're disclosing these situations to. You might not be in a great situation, you're struggling with money, and this can actually be the perfect situation for a perpetrator like Danny. He's looking for girls who are vulnerable, looking for girls who are having trouble with money, and these sex traffickers actually go to like these lower income neighborhoods to specifically look for these women, so being really careful who you're telling your personal business to, even if they seem like safe, giving them time, because people always show their true colors eventually. You can't fake the funk forever. So definitely just being careful who you're disclosing challenges to, and making sure that they're a safe person, because people can take advantage of you just knowing you're in a vulnerable state. So definitely be careful with that, and be careful who you're telling people your problems to, and just really get to know who they actually are, because everybody's always nice at first, right? They're always going to put on their best face when they first meet you, but eventually, true colors show. So definitely give it some time. So, yeah.
And I think the grooming piece of this is
Yes.
part of that too, right? They again, as Jennifer was saying, they start off so nice, and they bring you in, and they rope you in slowly, little bit by little bit, and suddenly it isn't until you realize, once you realize what's going on, then it's harder for you to exit the situation, right?
Yes.
So that's part of, let's leave Jasmine for a minute. We kind of talked about, this is the domestic violence power and control wheel. And you can see from talking about this, the economic abuse that we've been talking about, the minimizing, denying blame, and the using of isolation. Oh, come live with me, and we'll do work on it together, right? And then suddenly you're isolated. The woman is isolated, and it is a harder time getting out of it, right? So and they use economic abuse from as well, looking for money and that type of thing. So we can see right now how Jasmine now is in an abusive situation, right? And then we see what happens is she tries to leave, right? Or she does leave. But you know, we know that it's not always easy to leave, because because people who are abusive have ways of holding on to power. And that's what Danny does here. He's going to take her sister. And that's, of course, extremely scary to Jasmine. And so she returns. And soon she's having sex with multiple men every weekend. That's the turn. That's when it begins to look like sex trafficking. And then she's also being forced into other crimes. Danny's forcing her into other crimes, which is what I see as well. Is Danny is then being safe by making someone else do all the crimes and standing back. So we can now compare the sex trafficking power control wheel to that domestic violence one we saw before. So you can see the economic abuse one creates debt that can never be repaid. That's a big one, and takes money earned, which is exactly what's happening here. And then, of course, the coercion and threats to harm victims or family members. So that you can see how the domestic violence wheel becomes part of that sex trafficking wheel. Jennifer, what are you thinking about when I show this?
It's just so similar. I mean, you know, when you're looking and comparing it, the two. But yeah, you know, it's really sad, but like, that's why we are doing this, right? This is very common. And then it's also too, then they get the people, you know, the victims to do their dirty work. So they're getting girls to recruit other girls. And a lot of the times too, I think a lot of the times girls don't even know what they're doing, or deep down they do know what they're doing. They know it's wrong, but they're just scared. There's no other way, because these people are threatening them. We're going to tell, you know, that you're doing this, or I'm going to tell your family, or I'm going to recruit somebody from your family, you know. So a lot of these things are done in fear, you know, because I've seen like a lot of documentaries on these things too. And a lot of the women, they knew it was wrong, but they're like, but he was threatening me. He was telling me he was going to, you know, tell everybody in the world what I was doing, or whatever, you know. So definitely just, I think this is really good conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, and you're right. It's that part about, well, since you've been abused, you this is all you're good for, or all you're worth. Such awful things to say, but that's what people are here, right? And so this is how one becomes the other. Is you've been abused in the past, and so you're kind of you're used to kind of getting out of your body when you're being abused, right? Yeah. And so the boundaries change, and you kind of think that again, this is what normal relationships look like. And we're here to tell you that you deserve better, lots better.
Absolutely.
So let's go on. Let's actually define sex trafficking. Take a minute to define it. So it's commercial sex induced by force, fraud, or coercion. So it's taking that domestic violence situation where someone is being forced for sex, and then being paid, right? So there's that commercial piece, which means that there's payment involved. So that's what changes it from domestic violence to sex trafficking. So sex trafficking is a form of domestic violence. Notice the part at the end. So if a survivor, someone being trafficked, is under 18, you don't have to prove any of this. As soon as someone is making money off of someone else having sex, and that person's under 18, you don't have to prove anything else. It's sex trafficking, hands down. So But for those that are over 18, then you have to prove that force, fraud, or coercion. And you can see some of the things that we talked about with Jasmine, right? They were coerced because of threats of violence. There was the fraud where she, he told her to move in. He never said that she was now going to be responsible for part of the rent. How did that come up, right? That's not fair. That's fraud. That's just fraud. That's what it is. So don't let them tell you it's something else. It's fair. It's not fair. You didn't tell me around that. You told me you were helping me. So help me, right? That's what help looks like. So let's do some quick statistics to really understand that sex trafficking is occurring here. You can see 16,000 to 25,000 mostly young people are trafficked every day in our Chicagoland area. That's just around here. And the average age, 13 to 14. And, somewhere around 70%, I didn't put this one in, but somewhere around 70% are actually people born in the US, people that are American citizens. And 62% are younger than 18 when they're first trafficked. And here's the part about 1 out of 3 runaway teens are trafficked within 48 hours. And why is that? Because they're desperate. They're in a desperate situation. They don't see any other way until someone comes in and offers to help, or offers, and by doing that takes advantage of them. So it's often sex trafficking is a crime of desperation. I don't see any other way out of this. I just need a roof over my head. I have nothing. So this is my only way out of it. And that's part of what we're going to think about later, is why are we creating a society where the only way that someone can survive is by selling themselves, and selling themselves like a pizza, right? Or a sack of potatoes, or any other thing.
Right.
And it goes back to what we talked about the last one. Many who are trafficked have been abused in the past, or they're part of the foster care system again, because they have few resources and they don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. And that's why it's so important for us to move forward, is to dispel some of these myths around that. Jennifer?
Yes.
What are you thinking?
It's just very upsetting because my daughter's 14 years old, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that those were the first ages or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's very upsetting to hear these things, and that it happens in our country too, and in our city, in Chicago. But again, this is why we need to talk about this, because a lot of people don't realize how these numbers are staggering. It shouldn't even be this high, but it is. And it's because a lot of, also too, I will say, and I think you've mentioned as well, that if we saw abuse in our household growing up, we don't realize that we're even in an abusive situation sometimes. So maybe we were sexually abused by a family member or something when we were younger. So then when we get trafficked, it's almost like, well, this happened to me before, so what's the big deal? So some of these people don't even realize that they're being abused because they were already abused in the past, So this is why we're doing this video, just to let you guys know that this isn't normal. Being sex trafficked isn't normal, and being told, to dance for money isn't normal, or to do things, sexual acts for money is not normal. And those people don't really have your best interest at heart. So definitely making sure that you're being really careful who you're, surrounding yourself with, and that they're safe, healthy people that really care about you and don't want to see these things happen to you, yeah. So it's really important as well for those, who might be going through something like this, or maybe who don't even know, just maybe going to counseling or therapy or something like that, so that you can get help to know what is healthy and what is not. And again, RAINN does offer free counseling. So if you can't afford it or whatever, underinsured or no insurance, we got you. So that is an option, just so you know. But yeah, that's it. Thank you, Gayle.
That's great. Yeah. And then let's talk about the other side of this equation, right? Because it's about the men. And if men weren't purchasing women, then we wouldn't be in this situation talking about sex trafficking. So you can see how many buyers there are every year in the Chicagoland area. It's huge. And most of them are purchasing once a month or more. But notice the change in the age. Women, we talked about that young women tend to have their first time that they're trafficked. The average age is 13 or 14, but the average age when men start purchasing is 21. And just that huge power dynamic just by the differences in age and how much we grow and learn between the ages of 14 and 21. And that final one is really interesting, that 62% have a regular partner. As we talk about so often, I know Jennifer talks about this too, people that are abusing you, they're not doing it for sex. They're doing it for power, and they're doing it for control. Mm-hmm. And this tells you that 62% have a regular partner who they can get sex with. This isn't about sex, right? So just think about, again, these are men that we know, and it's about how we educate men and change this dynamic. And this is how we're going to get into this. We're starting to talk about, we talked about this a little bit. How do we support Jasmine? We help her realize she's in an unhealthy relationship, because a lot of times, Danny's grooming her. Why aren't you helping me with my expenses? You're living here too. You should be doing that, right? So how quickly those that are trafficking and controlling the situation change the rules. Are coercive. They're fraud. They cause fraud, and so and it's on all of us. All of us that support our friends to help these situations when our friends get into a situation that's unhealthy. Is talking about it, the fact that it's unhealthy, and help them, support them. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. But let's jump back a little bit and talk about how society creates this and why sex trafficking, there's so much sex trafficking. So the Pew Charitable Pew Research had a couple of questions. What characteristics or traits do people in society value most in women and men? So you think it's, and I before I turn the next slide, just think about in your head what characteristics or traits you think that we value in one another. What does that look like? And whether it's different for men and women. And the truth, of course, is it's very different. You look at what we value most in women. The first one, physical attractiveness, 35%. Where is that in the men's side? That's 11%. That's quite a difference. And for the empathy, nurturing, and kindness, women are supposed to be pleasers. We're supposed to take care of our men. That's the 30% there, right? But for men, where's that empathy, nurturing, and kindness? Again, down 11%. What does that say about us and our society? And how we need to make change. So I just take a minute to look at that. Yeah. And then I want to quickly just talk about this quickly, have a little bit of conversation on a TED Talk.
Nope, can't hear it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Wonder how I can do. Let's see. Maybe if I went to the TED Talk itself, maybe that would hear. You think that would work?
Well, we can try it.
Let's try it. Otherwise, I'll give you what he's talking about. We're running out of time anyway. What we're talking about here is, how men are taught exactly what we talked about before. Men are strong. Women are weak. Women are property of men, right? To be used by men. And this hurts men as much as it hurts women. It hurts men because they don't build the relationships that we want them to have. We want them to have feelings. We want them to talk about what's going on in their lives, and to really feel those things. And he talks about how the men are taught not to do that, to be strong, to not cry, all of those things, that the stereotypes around men. So here's some of the signs of trafficking. You can see some of these before. they tend to be, people that are trafficked tend to be abused, right? They show signs of physical abuse. They had the people that are trafficking tend to give people to give them items so that they're pretty, right? So that they are interesting for those that that are purchasing them, right? So they look great, right? But they also have these new tattoos on their arms or on their bodies somewhere that shows again that they are being purchased, that they are who owns them now. So just kind of think about these things, and when you may see them in a friend, maybe you support them and ask them how you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I want to end right now. Jennifer, what did I miss?
I think you covered a lot of really great things, but I think ending this, I think what you just said, if you notice a friend, offer them support. And what does that look like? So if I do have a friend, for example, that I might have a hunch that she is being sex trafficked, what can I do to help her? What can I do? Can I call a number for her, or can I send her to like a number, or what do I tell her? So I mean, I think that that's something really important to tell people who are watching this video right now, is like, how do I support others who might be going through this?
Right, right. And there are numbers for trafficking. We can absolutely give that number out. There's also, I think it's just it's connecting with them and providing them the support that they need to talk to however that they feel comfortable. They feel comfortable talking to the police. They can do that to get services, like someone like what Jennifer was talking about from so many nonprofit organizations. There's many ways. The point is to provide them with support and to help them move forward.
And another thing I'd like to add in there too is whenever somebody discloses, especially like sexual assault or even domestic abuse, like always tell them, I believe you. Should always be the first thing out of your mouth. I believe you, because you know how many people are telling them like, oh, well, you're the one that's doing it, or do you see the way you're dressed? That's why. Or it has nothing to do with any of that, right? It's just letting them know that they have our support. We believe you. And how can I be of service to you? What do you need? What do you need? And a lot of people think that they have to give people advice. Sometimes people just need you to listen. Sometimes they don't need any advice. Maybe they do, but sometimes it's just a matter of being listened to, because there's people that are trying to control them right now, telling them what to do. So it's always important to make sure that we give that survivor the opportunity to choose themselves, to make their own decisions. You know, I think that that's really important too. So that's just my 2 cents on it. But I think this was a really great, great short video here on sex trafficking. And I really thank you for doing this. So Gayle, if anyone wants to maybe learn more about this or get in touch with you to ask you questions, how can they reach out to you?
Right, and I was also just going to say the other thing that we're so used to saying is why don't you leave, right? What like that's an easy thing to do, and so often it's not. So instead of asking people why they aren't leaving, make sure that you offer them a place to leave to, and support them through that process, and understand that it's hard. It's hard to when the powers and control is there, it's very hard to see a way out.
Mm-hmm.
But again, my website is GaylNelsonESQ.com. It's GaylNelsonESQ.com. It's been great to talk with all of you today, and I hope that we have learned a little something, and that we create a better world where we can support each other and move forward that way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gayle, for agreeing to do this and educating our audience on sex trafficking, what it looks like, and what to look out for and what not to do. So again, if anyone that's watching this video is interested in more information, we have tons of resources on our website around domestic violence, sexual assault, sexual abuse. Sexual assault and sexual abuse is different, just so you know. We have teen dating violence, healthy relationships. We have a lot of resources on our website that you can go and kind of do some research on and educate yourself a little bit more about these topics. So our website again is www.womenrisechicago.org. Thank you everyone for watching. If you guys need any help, anything comes up for you where maybe you're remembering something or somebody you know needs to watch this video, share this video, let them know about And Rise and what we do. And we're always here to support you in any way that we possibly can. So thank you all for watching. And thank you, Gayle, again for being here with me. And take care. Have a great day, guys.